Hey folks, Jamie Lundell here, and today what we're going to do is talk a little bit about friction folders. I have a couple of pieces here that are in process, and it's kind of a good point in which we can talk about some of the ways that that friction folders can be constructed and different things to keep in mind as you're building them. I recently just finished up a class with this. So so basically what I have here is a template that makes up the handle for the folder, and then I have a template with which my blade needs to be of similar dimensions, because as you go ahead and you start looking at the way that this is going to fit together, if your blade is too long, you're going to miss the end here. It can be all sorts of problems, right? The other part about this, is you want to make sure that things are going to rotate well. You have a good look on how all of this comes together. This one is designed to have a flare here that will then set down. And then as this closes, there you go. Now, so that ends up looking something kind of like this. And that, let's see here, will end up being, as we can see, you have a blade here, and it matches up pretty well. You can see I did a pretty decent job following my template. Drop that guy in here. Drop in our pin. There ends up being a lot of this when you're making friction folders, of being like, put it together, take it apart, put it together, take it apart. Anyways, so here we go. There it is, open. I guess we're making contact back here. We have a little bit of a gap here, and this is where part of it can get really finicky. And then we close, and we're all set. Now, the difficulty when you're constructing something in this style, which I started doing and I actually kind of don't like at this point with that notch, is that when this blade closes, are you going to be exposing the blade through this notch? And basically the way to avoid that is you don't use the notch method. You use a different one, which is going to look something more like this. And it's basically the same template. It's the same template, except I just extended this. Now the thing you can see here, just a note on the template here, is that I've put a couple notches in here, and which gives me guidelines. Because what I'll do is I'll use a chisel and I'll put in a long line down there, so you have a place to bend from and a good reference as to what's going to make things symmetrical. Because bending these around is always difficult to try to keep everything symmetrical. You can go in obviously and do some grinding and whatnot afterwards. But so for this guy, since we don't have that notch, you can see I have a little bit of messing around to do with this, right? That's gonna kick down. I'll change the angle on that so it sits flat, and that would be the knife. Now the other option that you have, because this is kind of the big thing about the friction folders, is like this transition and what you're going to do with this scenario here. Whether you're going to flare it, many people will do a scroll, which looks good, but the difficulty with the scroll is that when you're holding it, it's then sticking into your hand, which is not terribly fun. But one thing that you can do is you can, instead of having this just stay parallel with the spine, you can jog it up and over. So you make a little piece that will come across and then rest on the top here. Or you know, even this piece could jog up and over, and then it allows this to set down a little further, because right now you can see the blade is kicked forward a little bit, which isn't really any sort of issue on using it, and it doesn't look bad, but it's just a different option and different way to do it. So that's basically it. You know, I'm using, when I'm making my handles here, you know, this is, you know, about 1/8 inch silicon bronze, but you can use all sorts of stuff, all sorts of materials for it. You can use iron, you can use copper, you can use brass, whatever it is. And yeah, it makes for a nice, easy way to put a quick handle on a knife. And it's just getting down that finicky part of what of that pivot point. That's also the thing. And so I really recommend, if you're going to do a friction folder, to one, make up just half of your, you know, what half of your handle is going to look like and what you want your blade to be. Drill your holes and make sure everything's going to sit nicely. The templates are just made from Masonite that has been thrown some spray adhesive on and laid graph paper down. That way you can make sure everything's nice and symmetrical. And if you got to make several of these and drill holes in them and move them around, I mean, you're buying Masonite by a large sheet, so, you know, utilizing a small amount to get this right is going to be way worth your time and money, as opposed to drilling a hole in the blade that you've been working on and realizing that, you know, your pivot point is just not going to work well. So definitely recommend templating things out ahead of time, and it allows you to kind of dial in what you want and how you want it to look, and that pivot point and that functionality will then come together for you. If you have any other questions about stuff, just let me know. If you have different videos that you would like me to make, information that you're looking for, definitely put it in the comments and I will try to get to it. Hope all's going well. Talk to you later.